This is the symposium, dear Asia callers. So you are here today. You can be called as Asia callers. Like yesterday, we have AsiaCALL2025. We learn, we share, and we grow. Can we do that again? Yeah. Okay. AsiaCALL2025.
We learn, we share, we grow.
Okay. Thank you very much. And on behalf of the AsiaCALL2025, it is my great pleasure to welcome to you today's symposium titled AI in Language Education, Opportunities, Challenges, and Future Directions. Artificial intelligence continue reshape the way we think about language learning, as we discussed already. I remember AsiaCALL since 2009, 2010. I do research in technologies about using the blog for peer feedback, and I also see Anya do research about Google Docs, right? Also academic writings, and Jeremy too. So, but today we go beyond that. We come to AI in language education. So it develops so fast. And from adaptive learning systems and automated feedback tools to conversational chatbots and multilingual learning environments, AI offers unprecedented opportunity for innovation. Yet, alongside these opportunities come important questions about pedagogy, ethics, assessment integrity, teacher readiness, and the future roles of education and learners. Today's symposium brings together 5 distinguished guests, scholars, and dedicated contributors to AsiaCALL community. So as you can see, our big man, Professor Dr. Andrew Lyon, and Dr. Anya Lyon, and Professor Jeremy White, and Dr. Lala, and me. So we are honored to have them share their insights on how AI can shape the future of language education. That is the very good themes that we will talk today. So maybe the first question I might ask Professor Dr. Andrew Lyon. You have worked with technology in language education for many years. So often you review us about the development of technology developments, all of your presentations in the AsiaCALL, long before AI became a popular term. How do you see today's AI developments in relation to earlier forms of call? What is genuinely new and what is a continuation of older ideas? Okay, we are happy to listen to your answer.
Okay, can you hear me? I guess you can.
Yes, very clear.
Okay, great. So thank you so much for staging this symposium. I think it's a good closure. I want to, before I say anything, I want to make a comment about the standard of questions that have been asked at this particular AsiaCALL. Maybe because people have been preparing for a while, but the point is that even if they have been preparing for a while, they produce some very intelligent questions, and many of the intelligent questions came from undergraduates. And I think this is a tribute to the university here, and also to the other universities which are participating. I think that this is a very demanding time for those of us who are answering questions, and for speakers and keynote or otherwise. So thank you so much. I think it's a great move forward. The issue of novelty is really strange, because in a way there is nothing new in what we have been doing. Many of us are simply reapplying old models. Old models that we have been using. but at the same time, some of us are trying hard to do different things. I tried in my keynote to point out the differences between the old call and the new call. I think the old call was programmatic, was overspecified, was limited because of the nature of the processes that we used to provide feedback. We always, a long time ago, like 20 or more years ago, people said to me, what we would really like is a robot that speaks to us in a foreign language, and that would be just perfect. Right? We could then have conversations. This was at the height of the CLT and so on. Well, we've got it now, and I'm not quite sure how we're using it, but it's there, and it's available. The more interesting part for me is that in terms of providing feedback, it's no longer mechanistic. And this is a great tribute in a way to the people who created the large language models, or small language models, it doesn't matter much. It's a tribute because in the end, the key to it, as I've pointed out before, is comprehension, understanding. Not human understanding in the same way, but functional understanding, functional comprehension, and that is what allows us now to do things. And the functional comprehension is not just about having conversations about pretending to be in a restaurant or pretending to do this or practicing our speech and so on, but actually comprehension in terms of the processes that we go through in order to be able to understand each other. And the level of feedback that is now available, it was not available before. And even if it was available, the price of it was that you had to create extremely complicated algorithms. Now, everybody can do it for free. Having said that, from now on, we need to look at the connection between the AI systems that we have at the moment, or will have in the future, and the students. I agree with Hassan Khosravi, who said yesterday that we need to find a connection between the learner and the system. We can't just send them to the chat box. We cannot do that. He's right. And that was what I also said, but maybe didn't spend enough time on. How we create the connection between students and the AI system is going to be critically important. The other thing that Hassan said, which I thought was interesting, is that he appeared to contradict what I said about LMSs, learning management systems, disappearing. But that's not quite what I was saying. What I was saying is that learning management systems, as we know them today, are going to disappear. Because as we know them today, they do not draw on the power of the artificial intelligence, primitive as it still is, to do things. So we are in transition. We're in a stage of huge transition. We can do things we could never do before. Now is the time for imagination. One of the great advantages, I've always argued that one of the great advantages of using technology in language learning is that it allows us to think differently. It allows us to think differently because of the constraints which apply to the tasks that we have and where we want to use them. In the past, we had constraints in terms of programming, in terms of delivery mechanisms, and so on. Now these constraints are disappearing, and we have a different kind of constraint, which is issues of modality, issues of the guiding principles underneath the AI systems that we are using. And as many have pointed out, that therefore raises questions of ethics and so on. I'll stop now, and I'm happy to answer questions. I don't think that I've answered everything that needs to be answered. Just let me make one final comment, and that is everybody in the universe at the moment is obsessed about writing. Everybody wants people to become expert academic writers. In the 12th century, in France and elsewhere, people were writing funny stories in the Middle Ages. There were dozens of these funny stories that were being written. They didn't write them because they needed to write them. They wrote them because they were scholarly exercises, academic exercises, and they were then thrown away. These were then collected by life, and people in the 20th and 21st century studied them as though they were really significant. What we're doing now with a lot of the academic writing that we do is our students produce tons of academic writing, we fix their English or whatever, and then we throw it away. Do we really need this fixation on academic writing that we have at the moment? I know people are making lots of money out of it. Publishers are too. Maybe we need to be more selective and then see how we can use artificial intelligence to support the academic writing of those who really need it, as opposed to wholesale academic writing. Just a comment, because I get irritated by the fact that everybody says, "Oh my gosh, I mean, we need them to be able to write academically." Really, how many of you remember your algebra? Okay, that's it for me. Thank you.
Thanks for your question. When you mentioned about now today the student can do by themselves getting the feedback, I also think about one very powerful software AI. They use AI before, they like automatic writing feedback, and I think now at that time that was amazing, but now ChatGPT might make it much better, right? And even though before writers write stories, but now each teacher can use like Gemini to create stories in English to teach their student, for their student to read, for example. So there are many different ways that AI empower the teachers and learners. I think I might ask you one more question. You have often looking ahead, what guiding principles would you suggest for institutions and teachers who want to adopt AI but also wish to maintain a strong humanistic and ethical foundation in their language programs?
Yeah, I kind of chuckled because somehow there's a distinction. People make a distinction between, software and humans, and therefore, humanistic means the opposite of AI. But it doesn't. I mean, humanistic means AI in a way because it comes out of us. The AI didn't spring up by magic out of machines which were self-managing. So the question is not about humanistic learning. It has nothing to do with AI. The question about humanistic learning is what models of learning are you interested in developing? And we still need to understand that at the basis of all learning that we have is not the machine, but rather the pedagogy. I mean, Willy Renandia, as I remember it, was saying somewhere, it's the pedagogy, not the technology. And some of us have been saying this for decades and decades and decades, well before Willy produced that. And the point about it is that it's the thinking patterns that need to be drawn upon in order to produce the environments where AI will be useful. AI is not independent from us, and it's not a threat At the moment, it still hasn't developed its own sentience. It's not functioning on its own. Maybe it will one day, but at the moment it isn't. And so the key to it is, how do we think about learning? What is learning? What is knowledge? And if you don't have an answer to that question, and those questions, and they're very difficult questions, then you better start trying to find an answer. Because otherwise you will be working on stereotypes drawn from all sorts of places. So what we need for the future of AI is not a policy about ethics out of AI or whatever, although that's important, but actually politics about, but policies about how the heck are we, what are our principles of teaching and learning? Lala and Lukman were talking about verbotonalism. Well, the point about verbotonalism is that it's an awareness developing system, right? It's something which works at the interface between perception and learning. And so one of the questions that people might ask themselves, what they rarely do in language work, is what is the connection between perception and learning? How many of you have asked yourselves that question lately? Well, it's a very important one. The people working in neuroscience ask themselves that question. And not just neuroscience in terms of awareness raising and noticing and all of that stuff, but actually in other directions, such as, you know, the work that Anya and Lala and Lukman are doing or have done in the area of aesthetics. How many people are doing that? As opposed to, oh yeah, let's just get them to replicate stuff. So one of the things that you might want to think about, by the way, and that's back to the writing issue, is everything that you want to do is to replicate stuff. Maybe not. Is that the learning of that's the learning of the past. We've been, you know, write this essay as though you were, you know, Austin or Searle. Okay. So the future is in learning, not in AI. And AI can help us with learning because it has access to more information and more connections than any of us have access to. And going back, and I'll just finish up with one more thing. I know I'm going all over the place. Never mind. Forgive me. Back to some of the questions that people were asking, you know, about ethics, about academic this and academic that. I mentioned in my talk about ownership. We are obsessed about ownership. You know, Lala wrote this paper. Andrew wrote this paper. Well, yes, but first of all, it didn't come just from Lala and just from me. It came from an accumulation of knowledge that we developed over time, which we hope we put together intelligently. Well, guess what? We now have a new friend. And this friend will help us do a better job. And that better job is, in the end, what really matters. So instead of worrying about ownership, maybe what we should start doing and rewarding in a different way from what we are doing now is to worry about value. What is the value of the essay that the students wrote, or that I wrote, or that you guys wrote? And if it happens to be a combination of ChatGPT talking to me and me talking to ChatGPT, plus everything else that I know, well, so be it. But I can assure you that I could not have done my keynote today, or yesterday, without the help of ChatGPT. Why not? Because I was able to ask ChatGPT questions about the way it works, and then put it together through a conversation about what it was talking about and what I was interested in. So value rather than ownership may be something we need to think about. And this is a huge, huge change. We are at a moment, at a historical moment, if you like. And maybe we're not aware of this because it seems so natural in a way. We're at a moment in history where everything will change. It may not be immediate. And we'll still have the guy and the guy with the red flag walking in front of us. But it's going to happen. And if we don't do something about it, think about it, we, not the AI, we don't think about it, then we're going to have a problem. Remember, AI is backward looking, but it knows more than we do, and it connects better than we do. Okay, that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your valuable comments. And actually, your question that I remember Lala yesterday also remind that question, what is learning? And this question you can answer in your own way, but different people have different answers. And even though last year answer for what is learning different from this year answer what is learning. So I think Andrew, Professor Andrew tell us this question that we put for ourselves, answer the way that what's learning. And in the past we focus, no, not just in the past until now we focus more on authorship, who own the paper. But maybe I think we need to also think about in the future the value that the paper, the product provide to us rather than who own it. I think that's a great idea. Thank you. So I think that maybe it's time for me to move to Dr. Anya Lyon. So my first question for you is that as AI increasingly becomes embedded in educational settings, what do you see as the most transformative opportunities it brings to language learning today?
Short answer. Is this working? Okay. I've got a very short answer.
Okay.
So what's learning is increasingly better or enhanced ability to discern, or you can discern increasingly more precisely and better, create increasingly as a result more powerful solutions. So what did you ask? What's AI going to contribute together with humans? So AI can enhance the support system we create for our students to generate increasingly more powerful, to enable students to discernments, basically, to assist students increasingly better in their capability to discern. There's a parable. Parable, is it called? Are they called parables, Andrew? In the Bible? All right. So it's about the King Solomon. Solomon. And the King Solomon was asked by one of those gods, Greek gods or whatever gods. He had one chance in his life to be given whatever he wanted. All the women on the planet, all the gold, all whatever. And so King Solomon was asked, "What would you like me to give you?" And King Solomon said, "The ability to discern." Not to learn all the forms. Because what we do in language teaching, we teach form. This is the genre form, this is this other genre form, this is this other genre form, this is this grammar form, this is this vocabulary, Kids can only take that much. Anybody can take only that much. But the ability to discern is actually critical. And the more, the better you get. So the idea is to support. What we want from human AI interactions, and especially from researchers and teachers, is to generate systems enhancing students' capacity to discern increasingly better and in increasingly more powerful ways.
Okay, I think that's good answer. When you talk about the forms in critical, I also remember that my earlier career in the AsiaCALL, I also learned from Andrew and you. At that time, I focused mostly on forms. And what both of you told me, I still did not understand, did not change. But actually, because of those kind of AsiaCALL, I listen to you both and then share ideas with other people. So I understand and I change myself. And I think I'm very thankful for that.
we all started there.
Yeah. Okay. So maybe can I move to Professor Jeremy White? AI tools are now being used to support feedback, grading, and even high-stakes assessment. Do you think AI will change the way we design and understand language assessment?
Yeah, so I think it could, possibly. I'm going to keep my answer short because I don't want to lose the audience. So we're moving to more process-based assessment. So at the moment, our traditional way of doing things, we kind of measure the final product, a final exam, for example. But we can do this now. We can collect longitudinal data, for example, like our drafts, revisions, speeches, etc. But with AI, we can sort of automate these things a little bit more and save ourselves time. So we can spend more time on understanding how the students have progressed over time, rather than just focusing on this one single assessment, one single performance. Also, we can adapt more authentic tasks for the students. So we can adapt it based on the level of the individual students if we want to, rather than one test for everybody. I mean, we would love to, as educators, I'd love to give a different test to each student based on how I feel that they are and what level they are, but it's impossible. So maybe, possibly, AI has the potential to be more individualized, to give individualized assessments. I don't know if this is possible. This is, just ideas of where I would like to see it go in the future. And as was said a few times over the last day or so, wait 5 years and we'll see what happens with this sort of thing.
Okay, thank you. So I think your answer, and I also remember Anya's talk today, keynote today, about providing the rubrics for AI to evaluate, to assess the paper. And even though it is accuracy or not, we still know that that's much better than nothing like before, right? So the assessment, not just looking at something wrong, but we focus on the process, like Jeremy just said, and Anya also mentions not just about the product, or Andrew mentioned about ownership. So we might evaluate in a different ways, right? Like the process, how the student, and then answer for Andrew questions about what is learning. So what is learning? We also think about the ideas of the process of learning, how we assess the student. We change the way we assess. I think maybe I have more questions for you, Professor and Jeremy. Many teachers worry about the accuracy and fairness of AI-based feedback and scoring. What can institutions do to make sure these systems are valid, transparent, and aligned with sound assessment principles?
Yeah, I mean, this is a difficult one. From my personal experience at the moment, the institutions are not doing anything, and it's being left up to the individual instructors. So my answer is, theoretically, if the institutions start paying attention to AI, so they would have to sort of calibrate what the AI is doing with some sort of human expert raters, or using rubrics that are designed by educators and given to AI to use, or a sharing of between educators, sharing of the data across different proficiency levels of the students. Yeah, it's it's a really difficult question, that one. So, yeah, what else have I got here? Okay, so if institutions want to use AI to give the feedback, then there needs to be sort of clear scoring rationales. But there needs to be an understanding of what sort of errors that AI can make when it is giving the feedback. And I mean, one of the examples we're seeing at the moment is, sorry, Andrew, I'm going to talk about academic writing. With academic writing, there is huge error rates when it comes to, putting that through AI checkers. And in my talk today, a student who had 40% AI detection, but I know the student didn't use AI at all. So this is a huge problem. So institutions need to train teachers to interpret the AI feedback and to understand when to trust it and when not to trust it. Build some policies around it. There's no real policies at the moment that, well, especially in my institution, around it at the moment. So we should be able to override the scores or the feedback of AI if we feel that it didn't give the right score, for example. And AI shouldn't be given sort of the high stakes pass-fail type decisions. That still needs to have the human touch to it, I believe. So, yeah, again, it's a kind of a wait 5 years and see what is happening in this situation.
I think that maybe your answers and our discussion these days also very meaningful and helpful to Dr. Lala too, because this is the university, cyber university, right? You train people, students online, and might also think about developing AI assessment for the students. And I give you one question. Teachers, like since I came to this conference, this is the first time I visit Indonesia, and I see very different culture.
Right.
So, and not just different culture from compared to Vietnamese culture, but within this culture, I see a lot of different cultures too. So the teachers in multilingual and multicultural environments often face unique challenges when integrating AI tools. Based on your research, what are the most common barriers they encounter?
All right. So thank you for this important question, Mr. Ho. In my work developing and implementing the multisensory call, especially in under-resourced universities and schools, I have observed that the barriers teachers face in multilingual settings go far beyond technical issues. I think the real challenges are more on, pedagogical, linguistic, and epistemological issues. And first, AI tools overwhelmingly monolingual and monocultural, and they are probably trained on dominant global languages and norms. So for a teacher in West Java who teaches English to Sundanese-speaking students using Sundanese or Javanese, influence or intonation patterns, an AI pronunciation coach that only recognizes the standards, the British or American or even Australian accent, I think doesn't just fail, it probably erases the learner's linguistic identity, even though I also believe that we can help the students to have probably a highest proficiency level, so they can keep their local identities while they can still reach the highest standard of English. And so this alignment discourages use and reinforces a kind of linguistic hierarchies, I guess. And second, most AI-driven platforms prioritize memory and repetition over imagination, and intelligence originates not from rote recall or memorization, but from creative, sensory-rich engagement. That's, I think, the battery runs out. So, sorry. And in short, the greatest barrier isn't technology itself, but it's the lack of co-design. And I think AI must be developed with, not for the teachers in multilingual context, and honoring their linguistic repertoires, cultural references, and pedagogical imagination. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And I think maybe the last question.
Sure, okay. Let's keep it straight.
Thank you.
Hard question.
What kinds of institutional or policy level support systems are needed to ensure that AI enhances, not widens, educational equity in language learning?
Okay, it's also a very critical question, especially as AI risks deepening the digital divide under the guise of innovation. So first, I think we have to think of having some localized open pedagogical infrastructure. I think the Cyber University has to do that very soon. So institutions must invest not in, what's the word? Proprietary AI platforms, but in open, adaptable systems that allow teachers to localize content and feedback mechanism. So I think we can have like open source recording apps and filtered audio tools to so teachers can curate emotional prosody samples in Bahasa Indonesia, in Sundanese, in Javanese, in Bahasa Minangkabau, or even Arabic. So the students can validate, let's say, their home languages as bridges, not barriers. So policy should incentivize such culturally sustaining AI design, so not just AI adoption that we've been talking about. And secondly, I think regional collaboration for equitable innovation is also important. No single institution can solve this alone, I guess. And we need Asia-wide consortia or Asia-Australia consortia, like the networks of AsiaCALL, to develop shared multilingual AI datasets, maybe open call repositories, and ethical guidelines. So, for example, we can imagine a regional AI speech dataset co-built by teachers from Indonesia, from Vietnam, from Japan, from Australia, and so we can capture the beautiful diversity of English phonologies in our context. So, such initiatives prevent the global South from becoming passive consumers of the Northern AI. And in essence, I think equity isn't achieved by giving everyone the same AI tool, and by ensuring every teacher, every student has the right, the resources, and respect to shape AI in ways that honor their students' full humanity. So I think that's what I can think of, Profo. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your answer. And I think equality, so we just acknowledge the technology AI today, right? Provide teachers and students equal in terms of using. So maybe the role of the teacher in the future might be different. Instead of teaching students knowledge, they teach students how to use AI efficiently, for example. So dear AsiaCALL participants and distinguished guests and beloved students over there, our discussion today has highlighted several key issues. AI brings real opportunities for more personalized learning, creative teaching, and stronger support for learners. At the same time, careful and critical use of AI is very essential. We must think about ethics, transparency, accuracy, and the changing roles of teachers and learners. We have been reminded that technology must serve people, and that our work should always aim to keep language education human-centered. Comprehension, as Professor Andrew mentioned, inclusive, and fair. The future of AI in language education will depend on how well we combine technological innovation with sound pedagogy, reflective practices, and strong collaboration among educators, researchers, and institutions. On behalf of AsiaCALL2025, I would like to sincerely thank Professor Dr. Andrew Lyon, Professor Jeremy White, Dr. Anya Lyon, Dr. Lala, for sharing your insights and experiences with us. I would like to thank all of you in the audience for your thoughtful questions, your engagement. Yeah. We hope today's symposium inspires new collaboration, new research directions, and new possibilities for our collective future. Thank you very much.